Chapter 3, Section 6 of Cup of Gold. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. Read by Kurt from Tucson, Arizona. Cup of Gold by John Steinbeck. Spring had come to Cambria, welling up out of the Indies and out of the hot, dry heart of Africa, and this the 15th spring since Henry went away. Old Robert liked to think, and then came curiously to believe, that his son sent the spring to Cambria out of the tropic places. There was a green fir climbing up the hills, and the trees were testing new, fragile leaves in the winds. Old Robert's face had grown more set. Around his mouth lived less a smile and more a grimace, as though some ancient anguished smile had frozen there. The years had been lonely, barren things, with nothing left in their arms for him. He knew the meaning now of Gwenlliana's words. That age brought nothing with it save a cold, restless waiting, a dull expectancy of a state that might not be imagined with any assurance. Perhaps he waited for the time when Henry would come to him again. But that could scarcely be so. He was not at all sure that he wanted to see Henry any more. It would be disturbing. When one is old, one hates disturbing things. For a long time he had wondered, what is Henry doing now? What seeing now? And then the boy had faded slightly, had come to be like people in old books, not quite real, yet real enough to be remembered. But Robert thought often of this abstract person, his son, of whom he heard wavering rumors now and again. With waking on the fine morning of the spring, Robert had said, "I will climb up to see Merlin today. Strange how that old man lives under the growing pressure of his years. There must be more than 100 of them now. His body is a thin wisp, nothing more than a suggestion that here was once a body. But William says, if you can be picking thought out of William's speaking, that his voice is golden and strong as always, and that he still talks tremendous nonsense that would not be tolerated at London. It is amazing how this road mender has his whole life curled like a kitten around 4 days in London. But I must be going to Merlin. It is not likely that I shall go again." The steep, rocky path was a thing of torture to him, more a cruel thing because of his memory of lithe, powerful legs and lungs as tireless as bellows. Once he had led all comers in the mountain race, but now he climbed a bit, then rested on a stone and climbed again, up and up into the cleft and over the rock shoulder. It was noon when he came at last to Cragtop. Merlin met him at the door before he had time to knock, and Merlin had no more change than the harps and spearheads hanging to his walls. He seemed to have discarded time like a garment. Merlin came to Robert with no surprise. It was as though he had known of this slow pilgrimage 1,000 years before the day had happened. "It is very long, Robert, since you climbed the path to me, and long since I went down it." And down, down sang the harps. He spoke the language of the strings, and they responded like a distant choir in high mass of the mountains. "But it's an old man who climbs to you now, Merlin. The trail is a beast enemy to wrestle with. You seem no older. I wonder when you will come to die. Do not your years sometimes argue that question with you?" "Why, to speak truthfully, Robert, I have taken it in my mind several times. But always there were too many things to think about. I could not take the time to die. If I did, I might not be able to think ever again. For up here, Robert, that furtive hope the valley men call faith becomes a questionable thing. Oh, without doubt, if there were a great many about me, and they all intoning endlessly the chant, there is a wise, kind God. Surely we shall go on living after death. Then I might be preparing for the coming life. But here, alone, halfway up the sky, I'm afraid that death would interrupt my musing. The mountains are a kind of poultice for a man's abstract pain. Among them he laughs, oh, far more often than he cries. You know, said Robert, my mother, the old Gwenliana, made a last curious prophecy before she died. This night the world ends, she said, and there will be no more earth to walk upon. Robert, I think she spoke the truth. I think her dying words were truth, whatever may have been her other auguries. This gnawing thought comes visiting sometimes, and because of it I am afraid to die, horribly afraid. If by my living I give life to you and fresh existence to the fields and trees and all the long green world, it would be an unutterable deed to wipe them all out like a chalk drawing. I must not, yet a while. But enough of these foreboding things. There is no laughter in them. You, Robert, have been too long in the valley of men. Your lips laugh, but there is no amusement in your heart. I think you place your lips so, like twigs over a trap, to conceal your pain from God. Once you tried to laugh with all your soul, but you did not make the satirist's concession, that of buying with a little amusement at yourself the privilege of laughing a great deal at others. I know that I am defeated, Merlin, and there seems to be no help for it. Victory, or luck, or whatever you wish to call it, appears to lie hidden in a chosen few as baby's teeth hide under the gums. Of late years this God has played a hard calculating game with me. There have been moments when I thought he cheated. Merlin spoke slowly. Once I played against a dear young god with goat's feet, and that game was the reason for my coming here. But then I made the great concession and signed with sad laughter. Robert, did I not hear a long time past that you were roving in your mind? Surely William stopped by and told me you had grown insane. Did you not do reprehensible things in your rose garden? Robert smiled bitterly. That was one of this god's tricks, he said. I will tell you how it was. One day, when I was pulling the dead leaves from my roses, it came upon me to make a symbol. This is no unusual thing. How often do men stand on hilltops with their arms outstretched? How often kneel in prayer and cross themselves? I pulled a bloom and threw it into the air, and the petals showered down upon me. It seemed that this act gathered up and told the whole story of my life in a gesture. Then the loveliness of white petals on black earth absorbed me, and I forgot my symbol. I threw another and another, until the ground was snowed with rose leaves. Suddenly I looked up and saw a dozen men standing about, laughing at me. They had come by from church. He, they said, Robert has lost his mind. His sense is slipping out of him. Ho, he is a child again, throwing rose petals. It seemed a crazed god who could allow this thing. Merlin was shaking with a silent glee. Oh, Robert, Robert, why must you blame the world when it protects itself against you? I think God and the world are one to you. If there were 10 people in the valley below who liked the look of rose leaves on the ground, you would only be a very queer person, interesting, and something of a curiosity. They would bring strangers to your house on Sunday afternoons and exhibit you. But, since there are none, of course you are a radical who must be locked up or hanged. Judgment of insanity is truly the hanging of a man's mind. If it be whispered of him that his brain wanders, then nothing he can say will matter to anyone ever again, except as a thing to laugh at. Can you not see, Robert? People have so often been hurt and trapped and tortured by ideas and contraptions which they did not understand, that they have come to believe all things passing their understanding are vicious and evil, things to be stamped out and destroyed by the first comer. They only protect themselves, thus against the ghastly hurts that can come to them from little things grown up. I know, said Robert. I know all that, and I do not cry out against it. My great complaint is that the only possession I carry about with me is a bag of losses. I am the owner solely of the memory of things I used to have. Perhaps it is well, for I seem to love them more now that I have them not. But I cannot understand how this fortune may be born hidden in a chosen few. My own son assaults and keeps each one of his desires, if the winds tell the truth. You had a son, Robert. I remember now. I think I prophesied that he would rule some world or other if he does not grow up. And so he does. News of him comes out of the south on a light, inaccurate wind. Rumor has wings like bats. It is said that he rules a wild race of pirates, that he has captured towns and pillaged cities. The English are elated and call him a hero and a patriotic man, and so do I sometimes. But I fear if I were a Spaniard, he would be only a successful robber. I have heard, though I do not believe it, I do not want to believe it, that he has tortured prisoners. So, Merlin mused, he has come to be the great man he thought he wanted to be. If this is true, then he is not a man. He is still a little boy and wants the moon. I suppose he is rather unhappy about it. Those who say children are happy forget their childhood. I wonder how long he can stave off manhood. Robert, have you seen those great black ants which are born with wings? They fly a day or two, then drop their wings and fall upon the ground to crawl for all their lives. I wonder when your son will drop his wings. Is it not strange, Robert, how, among men, this crawling is revered? How children tear at their wings so they may indulge in this magnificent crawling? What makes boys grow to men? Robert asked. What circumstance rots out their wing roots? Why, a great many never have wings, and some tear them off for themselves. Some are sudden things, and others very tedious. I do not know them all, but mine was ridicule, a kind of self-ridicule. I loved a small girl in the valley, and I suppose she was beautiful. I hope I was handsome. I made a song for her and called her the bride of Orpheus. I rather fancied myself Orpheus then, but she considered marriage with a deity as some manner of a crime against nature. She lectured me. Every man, so she said, owed it to something or other, his family or his community or himself, I forget just what, to make a success of himself. She was vague as to the nature of success, but she made it very plain that song was not a structure of success, and deities she abhorred, especially pagan deities. There was a man with lands and houses who was reassuringly human. Even in my old age, I think spitefully that he was deplorably human. So they were married, and ridicule gnawed off my wings. I paraded murder and suicide and fields of glory through my mind to fight this little paining ridicule. In my shame I thought to lock up my songs from the world, so that never again might people hear them. The world did not even know when I was gone. No little groups of people came to plead with me to return, and I had promised the ridicule they would. My bitten wings dropped. I was a man and did not want the moon. And when I tried to sing again, my voice had grown husky like a drover's voice, and my songs were thick with forethoughts and plannings. I wonder how I grew, Robert said. I do not remember. Perhaps my youth went out of me sticking to coins, or perhaps it lives in those lands I used to dream of. But Henry is swimming in his dreams, and sometimes I am very jealous of him. Do you know, Merlin, there is a thing which has appeared strange to me. My mother, Gwenliana, thought she had the second sight, and we humored her because she took such joy of it. And on the night that Henry went away, she cast a picture of his life. Merlin, nearly all her words have come to be the truth. Can these thoughts have come on her like a series of bright paintings? It is a strange, unlikely thing. Perhaps she read his desire, Robert, and sensed the strength of his desire. I taught old Gwenliana many things which had to do with magic. She was very apt at reading signs and faces. Old Robert rose to stretch himself. Ah, well, I must be going now. It takes a weary time for such an aged man to be getting down the path. It will be night when I am home again. Here is William coming with his pick, which was an appendage born to him. I'll be going down a bit in his company and learning the way of things at London. You must love words, Merlin, to be making so many of them, and I must love pain to be engendering it against myself. And Merlin, I think you are a trickster and a fraud. Every time I have gone away from you, it has been with the conviction that you have said mighty things, yet on thinking, I could never recall any of them. I think you work a subtle conjuring with the soft voice of you and your harps. And as he went down the path, the hanging harps crooned after him the sorcerer's farewell. End of Chapter 3, Section 6.